Ben, holy cow. Divisional matchups. A lot of playoff things have gone down. Did we record prior or after the wildcard matchups? Did we get any of that in the last time we talked fantasy football?
I think we did, because we did the award show, I think.
Okay, that's right.
That was
it feels like it's been a hot minute.
It feels like it. It hasn't been. We've just aged a lot from these divisional matchups.
We have. A lot went down.
I did. Hurt my heart Sunday night, honestly, dude. It made me sad.
Josh Allen came up small once again for you.
It hurt me bad, dude. I like Patrick Mahomes. Do not get me wrong. And I'm not going to argue that Patrick Mahomes is not the greatest player. He's pushing the GOAT argument as it sits right now. And he is by far and away the best player in football as it sits. I just love Josh Allen. He is my personal favorite player. I've always liked Josh Allen. I liked him in college. I was like super high on him the whole time. I'm a big fan. I just want him to get through once, man. Let the man, he deserves it. Man played lights out and just couldn't get it done, man. Makes me sad.
It's so like I was reading a column this morning. I think it was Benjamin Solak's column for The Ringer, and he was just talking about how Mahomes is better than Allen, but the difference is not enormous. And Mahomes has these great performances in the playoffs that we talk about and point to and say that's greatness. And Allen does too. The problem is Mahomes' highlights and performances are attached to wins. They're attached to success, whereas Josh Allen's are attached to ghosts because they are not attached to wins. And so they just sort of fade away. And with Mahomes, every time he wins these big games, especially against Josh Allen's of the world or Joe Burrow's of the world or Lamar Jackson's, if he does that.
He's only beat Joe once.
Yeah, he hadn't done it much. But every single time he gets a win like this, it just sort of adds to the legend. Whereas with Josh Allen, it's like, man, if only he could get one. He can't seem to put it all together.
And it makes me mad when I hear people talk crap about Josh Allen. And some of it, I'll give you. The dude turns the ball over a lot, but he doesn't in the playoffs. I think his touchdown to interception ratio is almost as good as Patrick Mahomes. I think he's thrown one or two more interceptions in the playoffs than Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't have the same amount of touchdowns, obviously, because he hasn't played as many games. But he shows up for the playoffs. And people talk junk he hasn't gotten it done. I'm like, okay, well, 2 years ago, I'm sorry, but when you throw a game-winning touchdown with 13 seconds to go, he got it done. His teammates let him down. His defense let him down. His coach let him down. That is not on him. Dude did everything he had to do to win the game. Even this year, I thought he played great. He did what he had. I think he did what he had to do to win that game. Again, he got let down by his teammates. 3 huge drops. I mean, think about this. If they win that game and he completes that bomb to Stephon Diggs, I think that goes down as one of the all-time great playoff plays of all time. I mean, he threw that ball 70 yards on the money into a breadbasket for Diggs, and he dropped it. So, I mean, I think the dude has what it takes to beat Mahomes. I think he's played well enough to beat Mahomes. It's just never happened for him. And I'm not taking away from Patrick Mahomes because Patrick Mahomes, he's done it. He does it every
incredible.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, so because we're talking about Allen being great, and Allen, they punted twice. So the Buffalo Bills on offense were fantastic for the most part. And it came down to the fact that they only punted twice, and on the final drive of the game, they worked down the field. Oh, and on top of all this, they have 3 or 4 75-yard touchdown drives. Not 4. They had a couple. 10 plus
nobody had
plays,
ever done that
yards.
Nobody had done that against the Chiefs this year. They did it multiple times.
There you go. So they have these long drives. They're scoring, and then everybody tenses up in the fourth quarter, and then on that final drive, they don't score the touchdown. And if you're going to point to anything that's not quite. And it's not even like he was small in a big moment. Like I felt like made plays and got them down the field and was like converting on third downs. He did fumble. And like if Kansas City recovered that, I mean, we're killing Josh Allen afterwards because you can't fumble in that big spot. But it doesn't turn into a turnover. You know, you dodge the bullet of the fake punt because Kansas City doesn't capitalize, and then you miss the field goal. I don't know how you felt about that field goal, but to be honest with you, I don't care. Well, see,
people
I
were
felt
hating
like
on Tyler
as soon
Bass
as
when
they
it happened.
see, I thought the decision to kick a field goal meant they were going to lose regardless because there was like a minute plus on the clock.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Like, if he makes that field goal, they still lose. Like, Mahomes is going to go down and win.
A big whoop. Like, them missing the field goal just means that they lost sooner than they would have lost anyway, in my mind.
Yeah.
So, Mahomes was incredible.
I listened to a lot of, like, talking heads, and nobody was like, bro, you cannot blame Tyler Bass. Like, yes, he missed a 40-yard field goal. Should you have made that? Yes. They would have lost anyway. They had not stopped the Chiefs one time on defense. And I guess technically they did. They stopped them right before half when they ran one play with 13 seconds to go before the half. And then
McCole Hardman fumbled in the end zone.
McCole Hardman fumbled. But, like, I don't consider that, like, real stops. Like, you had a fluke fumble and the play before half, which doesn't count. So, like, realistically, your defense did not stop the Chiefs one time.
No. Here's two crazy stats for you. The Chiefs did not punt a single time, and Patrick Mahomes had more 20-plus yard pass plays than he did incompletions.
I believe that.
That'll do it.
And what's crazy is, I think they said this has never happened in the playoffs before, is Josh Allen had the ball for like 36 minutes to the Chiefs at 22 minutes, or whatever the math is. I know the Bills had 36 minutes, and the Chiefs ran. These are like not exact, but I know it's really close because I listened to it. The Chiefs ran like 48 plays, I think, and the Bills ran like 78 plays. So they dominated time of possession and plays, and still the Chiefs were able to pull it out, man.
Yeah, they were able to get it done. Mahomes was incredible. Travis Kelce sort of like raised himself out of the coffin and was awesome.
Thanks now, Travis. I needed this in the fantasy playoffs, not the real ones.
It's a little bit late, wasn't it?
God.
Do you have any thoughts on Brock Purdy, Jordan Love? I don't think we even really need to mention the Ravens-Texans other than to say the future is incredibly bright for the Texans. Yeah. They're awesome. And the Ravens are a juggernaut. Past that, I don't even know if there's
Texans
much worth saying.
Nobody expected the Texans to be here anyway. So, honestly, just great season for them.
Yeah, they're going to be just fine. I think it's more interesting to talk more about Brock Purdy. I guess on the one hand, I don't know how you feel about Brock Purdy just as the 49ers quarterback. I feel like in a big spot at some point from here on out, they're going to need Brock Purdy to be amazing, and he's going to be good. But they're going to need amazing, and he's not going to be amazing, and we're going to be like, man, they are almost there. And Brock Purdy is fine, he's good, but he's not quite enough. I feel like he's a slightly better version of what they had with Jimmy Garoppolo, where he's really good, but you need something extra in the fourth quarter that he can't quite deliver for you. And you're like, man, we are in a pickle.
I have differing thoughts on it, because I think he is definitely a step above Jimmy Garoppolo personally. I think there's a gap between those two, because Jimmy's never done what Brock Purdy's done with San Francisco. He never has. So Brock Purdy, I think, is considerably better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Is he a system quarterback? Yeah, but I've also seen him step up this season. He stepped up against the Packers. They had to go down and take the lead late in the game from the Packers, and Brock Purdy did exactly that. And that was him that stepped up on that drive.
But was that Brock Purdy making plays, or was that like he's surrounded by studs? No, Debo, but like none of those okay, here was my point of view, and you can feel free to tell me I'm a moron, but I felt like there was not any moment or throw where I was like, oh, wow, Brock Purdy just
But that's-
made a play. It was like
See,
you throw
I'm
a
not-
quick little 3-yard out and it turns into 10-yard. Like it was not anything. I don't know. It was just like, okay, yeah, they scored. But there was a difference to me between Josh Allen making big plays against Kansas City's defense and sort of like willing his team down the field.
That's not fair. You
Maybe
can't
it's
compare
not.
him to Josh Allen.
Maybe it's
Are
not
you
fair.
crazy?
But there was a huge difference. And I know the 49ers won, but there was a difference. Brock Purdy is just like, he's facilitating. He's sort of like tossing it to his amazing players, and his amazing players make plays. But like Brock Purdy doesn't
And
make
he does
the plays.
it better than anyone we have ever seen in Shanahan's offense do it.
No, that's true.
I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you that he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I'm not gonna argue that he should be in the NFL or MVP conversation. No, I agree with you there. He's like the 6th, 7th best player on their offense. But in that offense, in that system, is he a system quarterback? Yes. But in that system, he is flawless. I mean, he's phenomenal. He
He's good in the
plays that
system.
system better than anyone we've ever seen.
Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I am, I don't know, being emotional. I just feel like there will come a moment when Brock Purdy has to go make a play and Brock Purdy can't make a play. And we should have just kind of known that all along, but we didn't because of all the numbers. And we were sort of just like not bewitched into thinking he's something that he's not, but maybe we think he's a little bit something that he's not. I don't know.
I don't know if I'm necessarily saying he's something he's not. I know exactly what he is, but in that system, he's all he needs to be. He is exactly what Kyle Shanahan was looking for.
That's true. That's definitely true. Kyle Shanahan got the perfect quarterback for what he wanted to do.
Sometimes, like, if that's your guy, not to everyone else, but to you, that's your best player because he is what Shanahan wants. And if that's what he wants, then you can't doubt him.
No, that's fair. That's a good point. Like, he is... Yeah, he's the definition of the type of quarterback Kyle Shanahan wants running his system, which I guess you take that for
Shanahan
what it's worth. But
he doesn't want a Trey Lance, which is, and I'm not saying
so
Trey
funny
Lance
they
is good,
drafted him.
but like a playmaker. Like obviously, some of the greats would do fine there. Like you put Patrick Mahomes on San Francisco. I mean, of course they would never lose a game, but like. Shanahan doesn't want a playmaker back there. And what I mean by that is like he doesn't need somebody to scramble out of the pocket or buy time with his legs and all this stuff. Like he just needs a guy in there who's going to do exactly what Shanahan tells him and exactly what they distribute it to the right person at the right time. And that's all he wants.
Yeah, no, that's true. This is a Dynasty running backs show that got hijacked by the NFL playoffs, but I don't think anybody's complaining. I'm not, because that was fun.
That's a lot. We got a big one too. Oh, I have one more question. And the only reason I asked this is because I'm curious to hear other people's opinions because I heard it on TV and I'm like, that's really interesting. It's Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes, and you can argue who you think is better team wise. I think obviously the Ravens are way better, but does this mean more? Does this game affect Patrick Mahomes' legacy if he loses at all, in your mind?
No.
I agree. Because we've seen Tom Brady lose AFC championships. Tom lost Super Bowls.
Yeah, and you're looking at the two teams, and I think everybody looking on paper at this matchup says the Ravens have a better team.
They definitely do.
And it's the AFC championship. It's not like we're in the wild card. So, like, they did win 2 playoff games to get here, and they're playing a team that I think everybody agrees up and down the roster is better. I think it's only pluses if you win and not necessarily minuses if you lose.
This game has a much, much bigger effect on Lamar Jackson's legacy.
Yes.
If Lamar loses this one, I think he's going to plummet down people's like quote unquote legacy standings versus if he wins this, you're going to have people who shoot him above Josh Allen and all those guys.
It's going to be big. I don't know. I think there will be some people, if they lose, that are dropping him. And it might, too, depend on how he plays. Like, if he goes out and lays an egg, a stinker, obviously that doesn't help matters. But if he plays really well and they lose, like, are we going to be too hard on him? Because at the end of the day, it is Patrick Mahomes. And I think there is an element of, in these sorts of games, the average fan needs to look at it like, just, you cannot doubt Patrick Mahomes. And if he happens to not come through for you, just be surprised. But don't doubt that he can get it done.
Patrick Mahomes, it never matters what's going on because it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
But
he's
also,
amazing.
I think there is a scenario to where I think there's kind of two ways this game could play out. If it's a close game, which it should be, like I'll be surprised if the Chiefs lose a close game, honestly, just because they have Mahomes. I think Lamar could beat him in a close game. I just think the Ravens, top to bottom, are like just so much better than pretty much everybody else. Like they could put some distance between them and the Chiefs, like score wise. Like they could. I think they could be, if there is a team to do it, they can keep Mahomes at bay enough with their defense to where like they can win this game like 30-17.
Absolutely. Yeah, with their run game and their defense, they could make this really ugly.
And that is
sort
not
of
a
the
knock
same
on
way the
Mahomes.
Houston
That's
game
just
went.
like top to bottom on paper, they should be able to do that.
Yeah, and I guess we do need to keep in mind the Buffalo Bills defense was Swiss cheese.
Buffalo was banged up. They didn't have Gabe Davis either. I think that is a bigger thing than people realize.
I'm sure it probably was. They had like 3 healthy linebackers. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I don't even think that's hyperbole. I think they legitimately had 3 healthy linebackers.
I think they were down 7 defensive starters.
That's
7.
That's worth thinking about. When we look and say, "Oh wow, the Chiefs just shredded them." There might have been some reason for that beyond the fact that they're just incredible, which they are.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away from them, but there were some circumstances that may have kind of helped that a little bit.
Yeah. And nobody talks about this. Can we put some blame on Sean McDermott? Like, everybody wants to blame Josh Allen and say, like, his legacy, but with him versus Mahomes, I'm like, the coaching is way different, too. Like, Mahomes has got Andy Reid. I have no faith in Sean McDermott to win a big game.
They haven't done
seriously. I don't.
Yeah, they win all the ones that don't matter, but when it comes to the for all the marbles game, they can't get it done.
Joker ran a fake punt with DeMar Hamlin.
He did. They did have 10 men on the field.
So?
You know,
You're on your own 30.
it was an interesting decision, to say the least. In that moment, in that spot, I don't know, even if there were 10 men, if I would have had the balls to say, yeah, go for it. That was with DeMar Hamlin of all people too. I don't know. We are 18 minutes into this thing. We have not talked about a single dynasty running back.
This is supposed to be like the culmination of the offseason. Like, everybody loves rankings. And this is dynasty rankings. Everybody loves it. This is running backs. Like the premier position to rank because it's so polarizing for everybody. And we have done nothing but talk about the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, let's hop over to running backs. We'll go from 1 to 12. How does that sound? Or should we go 12 to 1? I think there's no drama at the top. So we should go 1 to 12.
You and I have convictions about different players, but for the most part, it's kind of agreement.
All right. We split this into tiers. In tier 1, we have 3 names.
You can probably
Nobody will be surprised to hear the names. They are Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, and Jahmyr Gibbs. How do you have those 3 ordered in your mind, Ben?
I have Gibbs ahead of Breece, but Bijan above both. I think there's a legitimate argument that you could put Gibbs over Bijan. I don't necessarily agree with it just because I think Bijan overall is a better player. But I don't hate the argument either. If you want to put Gibbs at 1, I'll agree with you. You and I both agree Bijan should be there. I have seen people argue for Brees at 1. I don't necessarily agree, but again, I think it is close enough to where, look, if you and your personal rankings want to put Brees at 1, fine, go for it. But all of them are in the same, pretty much equal value in tier 1.
I think I've still got Bijan at 1. I have Gibbs and Brees as like 2A, 2B. I think if you, depending on the day of the week, you might get a different answer from me. And even with Bijan above the other two, they're not interchangeable because I do think they have different trade values. And that might be to what I default to on this. I think Bijan has a higher trade value. And even that could be wrong. Like, depending on your league, Gibbs might be the RB1 in terms of trade value. So, like, it's going to vary a lot, but it's going to be some order of these three. And I think we need to expect regression to the mean for Bijan Robinson in that he's going to be used more than just like an ancillary piece in this offense. He's going to be used like what he was drafted to be, which was to be great. Breece Hall gets used how you want your stud running backs to be used. He gets 1 million targets. He had 95 targets last season, basically 600 yards. He averaged 4.5 yards a carry on the league's worst offense. The only thing with him is he did all of this. He finished as the PPR running back 2, and he had 9 total touchdowns. He had 5 rushing touchdowns. So Breece could have been just ridiculous last season if the Jets offense wasn't the literal worst offense in the league. And I think that there's room for that to improve, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers coming back. And I think the Jets are going to definitely make some moves in the offseason to address that offense. So there's reasons for optimism there going into next season, even off a season when he was the RB2. And Gibbs, like, you turn on a game and you go, wow, that he's incredible. And he's going to still be splitting work with David Montgomery, but he's going to be in a great offense again. I think he's going to be the 1A to Montgomery's 1B next season. And those roles could even separate further than what they got to come playoff time now with Gibbs and Montgomery. So different strokes for different folks. I think there's an argument to be made for all three at RB1, and it's kind of preference.
If there's an argument for all three, then that's just tier 1, is all three of them, whichever one you like.
They all end up in the same tier, and it's kind of like, I don't know, whatever you want. I don't have too much to say other than that.
Yeah. You're splitting hairs when you're ranking these three guys. They are all unbelievable talents, elite talents. All three have elite roles, or hopefully Bijan will next season, if they can get a coach who's not a complete douche.
Yeah.
And yeah, not too much else to say here. If you have one of these three guys, you feel pretty good.
Yeah. Tier 2. This is, I think now we're getting interesting. We have
I call this second contract, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. How would you have those two ranked, Ben? Because I think we differ here.
From a dynasty perspective, I have Taylor ahead of McCaffrey. Just because they're both on second contracts, Taylor's 3 years younger.
Yeah. He is. It's not like Christian McCaffrey's old, but yes, Taylor's 3 years younger. He's not yet 28. He's going to be 28 by next season, but
I don't know. They're very similar to me. These I will say are more towards contending pieces than rebuilding pieces, but they're so good that I think they're the clear 4 and 5, whichever you prefer, ranking wise in your own dynasty opinion. I personally have Taylor at 4. You have him at 5. McCaffrey ahead of him. but I think them both in this tier is acceptable. Jonathan Taylor, once he's healthy and they got Anthony Richardson back, I think this offense is going to explode next season. I'm going to be very in on the Colts offense. I'll just go ahead and prep everybody for that now. I am very excited for that team. So, yeah, I'm going to be high on Jonathan Taylor, but Christian McCaffrey ain't going anywhere. He was just the RB1. I will say nobody's ever, or some people have repeated, but it's been, I don't remember. Has anybody ever repeated as RB1?
It's been a while. Not
been a long time.
Not in like the quote unquote modern era of fantasy football has somebody repeated as the RB1. So like that being like the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. These are my dynasty rankings because I think that obviously we know their long-term value is still there, but these 5 guys we've talked about so far, these would be my redraft rankings as well. In some form of these 5 guys is also my redraft rankings.
Yeah.
So I expect this to be the top 5, assuming everybody stays healthy, of running backs.
Yeah, I think with McCaffrey, you're going to find a lot of people that have him RB1, RB2 in Dynasty just because the production premium, it was insane. I mean, he was so far and away better than everybody else. And other players had good seasons, but McCaffrey was, I think, 100 points clear in PPR of the RB2. It was a significant gap. And Jonathan Taylor, we have seen him be the RB1. He's been an incredible player before. He was pretty good down the stretch last season as well, and the offense should be a lot better. I agree with that. So I would have McCaffrey over Taylor, but that one may be a depend on who you ask too. I think McCaffrey's definitely more of a contending piece, and his value's probably never going to be as high as it is right now from here on out for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I do think, his value's going to dip from here on out.
Yeah. It's sort of like buying a new car. Like the saying is you buy a car and it drops in value.
Yeah. I'd say the same thing for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he just signed his new contract. So I think for several years, yeah, he's going to be really good. But he's no longer in the conversation where that's why Gibbs, Brees, and Bijan are all in tier 1. Because I can buy them and know that their value is insulated for a long time. Whereas McCaffrey and Taylor, their value is insulated, but your timeline is much shorter.
Yeah. Tier 3. We've got one player in tier 3 by himself. And I guess we just feel like he is just a slight step lower than McCaffrey and Taylor. But he's in a similar spot in his career and in his production. But it's just not quite to that level. We've got Travis Etienne in a tier by himself in tier 3.
Yeah. I think it's not saying that Travis Etienne is a bad player. I think his situation is different.
Yes.
He's still on his rookie contract, which you like to see.
And it's a first-round contract.
It is a first-round contract, so I think they still have 2 years of control over him. But it's just kind of strange. He was very, very streaky this year. Kind of inconsistent. He did win me one championship with his blow-up week in week 17, so I appreciate him for that.
That was nice.
I guess my question is more with the Jags offense than him. Jaguars offense is very inconsistent.
Yeah, they had the second worst run blocking offensive line according to PFF this past season. I think that's got something to do with it.
Yeah. I didn't know it was that. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah, so the teams that they're around in terms of run blocking, the Chargers were the worst run blocking line. Jaguars second worst. You've got Giants, Buccaneers, Panthers, Jets in this sort of package down there at the bottom. So that's part of the issue with ETN is that obviously his offensive line is terrible. I think that they're going to address it, and I think it's going to be better next season. But even 2 years ago, he was really good, and there was still questions because he wasn't quite getting pass catching. he got pass catching this past season. That improved. But then the yards per carry, it was either he had a 70-yard run and sort of salvaged your day and scored some touchdowns, or it was like 14 carries for 35 yards. So it wasn't always super consistent on the ground, and I think that's where you have some questions with him. I still think he's a really good player, and I think that there's definitely room for this to improve next season if they address the offensive line. And honestly, like Trevor Lawrence, I don't know how good Trevor Lawrence is, to be honest with you. And I think that also factors in.
We'll probably. I'm very interested to discuss Trevor Lawrence when we get to here in a couple weeks in the Dynasty when we rank quarterbacks. Because Trevor Lawrence was offered to me in a Dynasty league a few, probably like last week or something like that, and I ended up saying no. And the quarterback I was exchanging may surprise you, so we might leave that one for a later date. But I lost track of what I was saying. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence is weird. I don't remember exactly what we were saying. I got distracted.
All right, we'll jump down to tier 4. These players happen to both be amazing for fantasy football, yet there's a couple question marks.
These are the tiny but mighty.
Tier 4, we got Kyron Williams and Devon Achane. For different reasons, they land in tier 4. For different reasons, there's reasons to be optimistic. How do you feel about these two?
Extremely difficult to decide on. I'll be honest with you. I would consider these two of the most polarizing names in fantasy because Kyron Williams does not have the draft capital, so you could easily see him getting replaced. But my gosh, he was so incredibly good this year. He also he's not very big, so that he, has similar concerns as you would have with guys like Achane in this same tier. Like, he's got durability issues, same at Achane. But when they're on the field, they just produce. So that's kind of where I'm at. And my issue with Achane was more of the size concerns and the ability to handle a full workload. And he was injured a lot his rookie season. But when he's full speed, my gosh.
Yeah, Okay, Achane first. Achane broke every single performance metric that you can find for rushing. Like,
performance-wise, he is the greatest player of all time. No one should be able to do this.
He's insane. Absolutely insane. I think it's the number
Mike McDaniel
one.
knows what to do with a fast player.
He does. He had the number one season in yards after contact per attempt ever that I could find with like a minimum of 100 carries. He had 100 carries for 800 yards. 100 carries for 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's absolutely ridiculous. That is insanity. He had a 200-yard rushing game in week 3 against Denver.
To be fair, Mostert had like 160.
I don't know how much Mostert had in that game. Mostert scored a bunch of touchdowns.
Denver gave up like 700 yards of offense. I've never seen a pro team do that.
Mostert had 80 yards rushing that game.
Okay.
He just scored 4 touchdowns, but also Achane scored 4 touchdowns in that game as well. Achane's first 3 games where he played at least 40% of the snaps, he had 100 yards rushing.
Ain't bad.
And it wasn't bad. It was not bad at all. He was very good. He was really good as a pass catcher too. The thing with Achane was, yes, the size. He's 188 pounds. That's bigger than what he was at the combine. I think he was like 180 at the combine, and he ended up getting up to 188.
He's still like 40 pounds behind most of the other guys on this list.
But so what if Devon Achane gets up to Kyron Williams' number where he's like 195? If he can put on another 8 pounds and maintain that at 5'9", 195, then you're like, okay, the BMI is in a decent enough space where there's a chance he could maintain some workload. And Mostert is going to be 32.
If he could do that, he jumps to tier 2. He jumps ETN in my mind.
Okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that. With Kyron Williams, the question for me is purely draft capital, is team investment. Because I got burned by James Robinson.
Yeah.
James Robinson
you
was
know of all
amazing.
People.
I know it very well. James Robinson was incredible, and then they went and drafted Travis Etienne. So there was no reason to. No reason whatsoever that they needed to draft a running back, and they did. I don't want to put it past the Rams to go draft a running back. I mean, maybe they go get...
The running backs in this class suck.
Yeah, but what if they go get Blake Corum or Braylon Allen or somebody in the fourth round?
I don't think one of those guys starts over Kyron, though. I think
but maybe he eats into the workload. I don't think there's anybody coming in that's going to steal his job. But if somebody eats into the workload and you're looking at Kyron going, oh, you were incredible a year ago. You had all the work, all the touchdowns. You were great. And then it goes to now you have 70% of the work. I don't know. Those are my questions with Kyron. That aside, he was very, very, very good for fantasy football this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I will also be wary of potential free agents because there are some decent free agents this year at running back. Yes. They're older guys, but there are going to be some names that are out there and available.
Yeah, I think we're not quite at the point where we have questions about guys getting replaced, but you know, I guess it could happen. I don't want to say it won't happen because I've been wrong before.
Kyron's weird to me because if I'm betting on Kyron, I'm a contending team because I don't trust Kyron to have multiple years of success left. I think he's going to be good next year. I expect him to regress some. I will say that. I don't expect this level of production, but I think he's still going to be good next year. Now, beyond that, I don't trust him.
Yeah, with him, you sort of take it year by year, but just because of the team investment. Like, he was good. He performed. But performing doesn't necessarily mean that when the bill comes due, the team is going to pay it.
James Conner had like 3,000 yards. Not James Conner. James Robinson had like 3,000 yards in his first 2 seasons. And I think he's unemployed now.
Yeah, he's not even in the league. It's very sad what happened.
That
to
sucks for
James
him,
Robinson.
honestly. Honestly, it doesn't feel right. Like, that is not fair to running backs.
I think he tore his Achilles. I think that's where that one went.
Yeah, but he was already a bench guy at that point.
Yeah, I feel really bad for James Robinson.
I think he was like already on the Patriots and backing up Ramondre Stevenson when he tore his Achilles.
Oh, jeez. Any thoughts on Tier 4 before we hop back into Tier 5?
Nope. That's why, like I said, I think this is the most polarizing tier for me. But
I agree.
Nothing other than that.
Tier 5, we have Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and DeAndre Swift. How do you want to break this one down?
You could argue this one more polarizing too, because this one's strange.
There's some names in here, and they are in different stages of their careers, and trying to figure out how they're valued against one another is very difficult.
Yeah. Pacheco and Cook have the youth on their side. They have the fact that they are on their rookie contracts on their side. Jacobs, Barkley, and Swift. They're both very good players. I think Jacobs, Barkley, and Swift have the fact that I think they're better on their side.
Yeah, so Pacheco and Cook, for me, are very similar in that they're both very good runners. They're very efficient runners, and they were very good in PPR leagues this past season. The question with them, both of them, is that neither one is the focal point of the team's offense. With the Chiefs, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes in the passing game. So Pacheco is always going to be kind of adjacent to the passing game. And James Cook is always going to be adjacent to Josh Allen, no matter what. So I think they have a cap ceiling, both of them, where they can't necessarily leap into the workhorse roles that some of these guys above them have. But they're very, very good, and they have good team investment in them.
Actively put James Cook in a workhorse role. And this is not saying he's bad, but this was as good as he could get with Josh Allen. Was when they actively were like, we are going to feed James Cook.
I think he
And
was
he was
second
the
or
RB 12 in
third.
PPR.
Okay, so he's RB12, and he was second or third in the league in rushing.
Yeah.
So
He had
that-
13,
he just
13 and a half points per game.
that's pretty good.
Which, honestly, and you'll probably appreciate this, great on James Cook and potentially good news for Devon A-Chain because James Cook, we did not think could handle a workhorse role. He is like a $190.
Yeah,
He's not a big
that
guy.
is very true. We definitely did not think that he could. I don't know how many carries did he end up with this year.
He had 237.
Oh my goodness! Imagine Devon
1,100
A-Chain getting
yards,
230 carries in a season.
You would love that, wouldn't you?
I would love that. I mean, you look at the career arcs. I don't know if you can project anything based on James Cook. He is 5'11", 190. You're right. He had 91 carries in his rookie season. Was very efficient, 5.7 yards a carry, and then it jumps up to 237, 4.7 yards a carry in year 2. Only
And
6
Raheem
total
Mostert
touchdowns.
is 31 years old.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm about to give you false hope, aren't I? About Devon A-Chain.
I'm gonna. Oh, geez. I don't even want to go there. It's
Don't
terrifying.
go down that path, Josh. You're just going to get hurt.
It's scary.
It's just going to hurt you.
Jacobs and Barkley, very similar situations. Free agents, they could go way up or way down, I think, depending on where they land and what this next season looks like for them.
Same thing for DeAndre Swift.
You're right. Yeah. No, I forget. He is also a free
All
agent.
three free agents. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are situations where they could go and be awesome?
You're going to play the Dreamland scenario for me?
Yeah.
My personal Dreamland scenario is DeAndre Swift goes to the Chargers. Pair that man up. Let him be the new Austin Eckler. Oh, my gosh.
Honestly, any one of these three going to Chargers would be great.
Any of them to the Chargers would be awesome.
What about
Yeah.
Chicago?
I don't like Chicago. Maybe with
Okay.
Caleb Williams, maybe. We'll see. But
I mean,
I don't know
that's-
if they're going to get Caleb Williams at this point.
Okay, let's just be honest. They're going to draft Caleb Williams. Much as we would like them to maybe build around Justin Fields, they're going to draft Caleb Williams.
They probably should. I'm not 100% confident it's going to happen. Because like Caleb Williams has outright said he doesn't want to play for Chicago. And again, I'm not predicting they don't. Like they should probably take him. But there's still some balls up in the air that I'm like, yeah, I don't want to confidently say it's going to happen yet.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot of slam dunk running back openings, but you're right. The Chargers are one of them. I'm trying to think if there's any
Swift
others.
is a free agent from the Eagles. He only scored 6 touchdowns, but I mean, he was ridiculously efficient behind that offensive line. So if he can score a few more touchdowns, or if maybe he leaves and like, if Josh Jacobs signed with the Eagles, I mean, I think he would be phenomenal there. Just get them a power back with Jacobs, he'd be great.
Yeah. I still think you'd be the RB2 on the goal line because Jalen Hurts will get all those. Unless
Yeah,
they get rid of the
that's
tush
the only
push or
problem there.
something. But
I would love that. Love
yeah,
it.
I would not mind it
Love
for fantasy.
it.
We can get some of these running backs some rushing touchdowns. That'd be nice.
Barkley, I think. He's the most talented guy in this tier.
Yes.
Anywhere he goes, I think he'll be fine.
He'll be, yeah. I think with him, it's more like, is he as good as he was this past season, which ended up being RB13? Wasn't incredible, wasn't like a smash start every single week, but was good overall. It could be that, or potentially, if you go to the right situation, you could be a top 5 running back.
Yeah.
So, anything else on this tier before we hop into tier 6?
No, it's a kind of another weird tier. You got 2 young guys and then the 3 vets. There are a lot, like all 3 of them, or maybe not Pacheco and Cook, but Jacobs, Barkley, and Swift are the most interesting to me because, like you said, all 3 could go way up this list or way down.